Hi everyone. Oops, sorry, I didn't realise that was on. Welcome to week 5 of my live stream guitar lessons. I hope you found everything so far to be good and not too challenging, not too easy. Basically just the right sort of challenge. Yeah, if you've got any comments from what we did or anything we've done over the last couple of weeks, please put them in the chat. Just pop that in and I'll answer them as we go through. Today what I was planning on doing is going back over a few of the bits from last week just to kind of recap things, make sure we're all good, and then push on with a couple of other bits. Be interesting to know how you got on with the E minor chords. Obviously we looked at that for the first time last week, so if you found it difficult, let me know. Otherwise, I think we talked about the common pitfalls of it, so hopefully that helped as well. But yeah, let's get started then. So first of all, we just need to check our tuning. So I'm going to start with the 6th string. So just play it a few times, just have a listen and try and hopefully make sure yours is sounding the same as this. Okay, so here we go. Okay, and then our A. D, and G, okay, and B, and then our top E. Okay, so hopefully we're all in tune. So the first thing I was going to look at was we'll do a little bit of a warm-up. So we spoke about this last week about setting, I think we said the 4-note recap. So when you were practicing during the week, when you go to pick the guitar up, first thing you wanted to be doing was really just going over that 4-note recap, just to sort of refreshen your memory of like where the notes are, which fingers you should be using on the right hand, and just gently getting into things really. So let's try it together. So we're looking on page 9, the 4-note recap, just under the E minor chords. And what we're going to do is start with the G, and all of these notes are written as minims. So I'm going to count us in. So it'll be 1, 2, 3, 4. So we play the G, and just remember we've got to leave that space for the minim. So you might want to count 2 after each note. Okay, so here we go. Before we go, what I'd like you to do as well as playing them, if you can, is say the note names out loud. Okay, so we're just going to go through it once and then we're going to try a second time in just a minute. Okay, so good luck everyone, and after 4. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4. So G, 2, A, B, and B. Okay, so nice and straightforward. So we're going to do the same again, but we're going to play it forwards and backwards. So we'll go G, A, B, E, E, B, A, G, all in time and maintaining the timing. So here we go, after 4 again. So 1, 2, 3, 4. G, A, B, E, then E, B, A, G. Okay, so good stuff. So that was the first thing I wanted to cover from last week. See, any questions, do fire away. But the next thing I wanted to go at was the E minor chord. So we talked about this obviously last week. So remember to play that, we're going to put our middle finger on the 5th string at the 2nd fret, and then our 3rd finger goes directly underneath it on the 4th string at the 2nd fret, and we strum all the strings. If you notice here, my fingers stack quite neatly on top of each other, and that's sort of what you're aiming for. But what you might find initially is that they do something like that, and that's absolutely fine. So as long as you're getting the notes to sound, that's really all that matters. I found that things like that, fingers moving from there to there. That just gradually happens over time. If you think of it, great, but really what we want is that chord sounding nice and clear. So when we strum, we should get all 6 of these notes nice and clear. If you haven't, as I mentioned before, most common pitfall is probably you're not quite up on the fingertips enough and your fingers are kind of flattening down a little bit. So if you do that, you might get that sound on the 3rd string. So just try and get up on the fingertips. Again, if you've got any questions, just fire away. But hopefully you found that chord okay. Typically E minor is one that people start with because it's a fairly straightforward one, to be honest. There's going to be some more chords which are going to push us a little bit harder than that. So yeah, important to get the principles right in the first place anyway. So, okay, good stuff. So, last week we were mainly looking at exercises, is it 9, 10, I think? Yeah, 9 and 10. So helping hand and the triumph. So what we're going to do today is play through those now. So if you make sure you're on page 10, we're going to start with helping hand. So I'll just count us in as before, and we will just see how you go. You know, just try and play along. So when I go to count in, a lot of the time, well, so far I've counted 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we start. What I'm going to do from now, probably, if I think of it, is just go 3, 4. And then we go straight in, so we're, so we're not doing the longer count, basically. Things to watch out for in this one. We've got the rest in there. We've got to play the whole thing twice because we've got our repeat marks at the end of the 2nd line. We've got our note A, 3rd string, 2nd fret, so we want to make sure we're good with that. Other than that, it's just open strings, so hopefully that's all good. As I've suggested underneath, we talk about playing it quiet the 1st time and louder the 2nd time. I'll play it quieter the 1st time. I don't know how well that comes out on the audio really, but hopefully it'll be clear enough for you guys. So okay, here we go. So after 4 then, so helping hand, so 3, 4. Rest. 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 Back to beginning. 3, 4, a bit louder. Rest. 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 Two, 3, 4, and stop. So again, hopefully that went well for you guys. As we said before in previous weeks, give yourself a pat on the back if it all went well. If not, don't worry about it. Just listen back to the video or last week's video, practice playing along. Got the backing tracks and that online as well, just on my YouTube page. So just do whatever you can to get as good as you can at that. So the next thing, now we talked very briefly about this last week, but it's rest stroke and free stroke. So just want to go into that in a little bit more detail today. So I've just changed my angle, obviously, as you can see. So when we play rest stroke, what we do is we play, say the 1st string, we play it and we end up resting on the next string this way, which is actually down. So so we play the E and we rest on the B. If we were playing the B, we rest on the G. If we're playing the G, we rest on the D, and so on. So that's the rest stroke, kind of hopefully for obvious reasons. You just end up resting on the next string. When we do free stroke, we just have to change our hand angle a little bit, and rather than resting on the string, we don't. So you lift it up and away. The thing to watch out for with free stroke is we don't want to get pull the string too far. I don't know if you can actually see that too well, but if you pull the string too far, you get that horrible kind of slappy sound, like. So that's you're just getting a bit too underneath the string and pulling away a bit too much. So just if you find you get that, just ease off a little bit, go a little bit lighter, and hopefully that sound should come through, but just without that sort of slightly slappy sound. The rest stroke, hopefully you shouldn't get that at all. So yeah, there are different times where we might use the rest stroke and the free stroke. It kind of depends what you're playing and that. I would say more often than not we'll probably go with free stroke when you're playing more sort of comprehensive pieces, because you want all the notes to ring into each other. So if you were playing your E minor chords and you wanted to kind of get those notes to ring into each other, you would do that as free stroke, because if you do the rest stroke, you cut some of the notes off and it doesn't sound quite as nice. And that's kind of the character of the guitar, is these notes kind of blending into each other and that. If you were doing rest stroke, it's probably going to be more if you're doing your sort of lead lines. Because it just gives you a little bit more volume and a little bit more clarity, I think. And you can be a little bit more, give it a bit more attack as you play. So anyway, that's enough on that, I think. It's rest stroke and free stroke, they're things we'll just sort of mention to say try it one way or the other. It's not especially crucial early on, I don't think, but just do your best with it, really. So let's go on to number 10, the Triumph. So as suggested in the book, we're going to try this one with the rest stroke. I think we just changed between the notes G and A throughout on this. So we'll just give it a go. The difference, obviously, is how fast you change. So we start off with crotchets and end up on quavers. Again, we could try going a little bit quieter the first time, a little bit louder the second time, because we've got a repeat mark. But let's give it a go. So after 4, the Triumph. Good luck, everybody. So here we go. So 3, 4. Quavers. 2. 2. 2. Back to beginning. 3, 4. A bit louder. Second line, quavers. 2, 3, and 4. Good stuff. Okay, so again, hopefully that went well. Any questions, please fire away. If it all went well, you played along, great stuff, well done, give yourself a pat on the back again. And we are going to move on. So looking at the next page, so the next exercise, winding path number 11. I'm going to play this one free stroke, because in this particular exercise we're changing between the strings, I think every other note more or less. So we want these notes to ring into each other. So if you see above the notation, it says let ring and then sort of dot, dot, dot until the end of the line. And that's just the software that I use, that's their way of sort of letting you know that's how they want it to sound. I should say probably if you look at other music books, let ring, it depends what software people use, but let ring tends to be more specific to the software that I use, which is called Guitar Pro, which is really common, but more formal publications would use other software typically, and so that is probably not going to be in there, and it's just kind of expected that you would know that you want those notes to ring into each other unless they specifically don't want you to for some reason. So let me play it to you. So we've got lots of quavers, So it is a little bit more challenging in a way, but it's all a similar kind of idea. So so I play it just on its own first, then I'll play it again with counting, and then we'll try it together. Now we should repeat this, so you do first line, the second line, and back to the beginning, play it all again. For the demonstrations, I'm just going to do it once. I'll count in. Obviously, feel free to have a go if you like as we play along, but just to give you an idea of what it's going to sound like. Okay, so here we go. So it'll be 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. Okay, so hopefully that seems reasonable and not too daunting. One trick you can try is actually to put your middle finger on the A before we even start. So the first bar you've got the B and the E, so as long as you're not kind of, you know, letting your fingers slip down like that, if you're right up on the fingertip, you should be able to get the B note out. And then as you come onto the second bar, you're already in the right place. If you've got your finger at the right angle, you should be able to get the note B. And then obviously we just lift off for the third bar. And then, you know, perhaps the tricky bit then is we've got to put it back down for the last bar of the first line. Keep it down. Same ideas because it's sort of repeated. Then you lift off here, put it back on for that bit, and then G at the end. Okay, so I'm going to play it once more and I'm going to count along. So I'm going to count 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 for our quavers and the crotchet at the end. So remembering in between the beats we count the and. We could use words, coffee, 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 tea if you wanted to. But I'll count 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 on the first line, then go tea and coffee on the second line. Then you can take your pick as to whichever sort of format you like to use. I actually quite like using words, but I have taught quite a lot of people who really prefer the numbers because they just know exactly where they are in the bar. And that's great, you know, really, I suppose that's the way it should be, but words can just be a bit easier as well. So anyway, here we go. So again, feel free to join in if you like. This is Winding Path. Okay, so 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, coffee, 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 tea, coffee, 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 tea, coffee, 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 tea, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so you notice possibly as I was counting that through, I started to sort of sing along with it a little bit. My singing voice isn't great, as you might have heard, but it, you know, it can help a little bit. So let's have a listen to the track. So this is Winding Path. This is what the backing track is going to sound like. Let's find it here. Okay, so here we go. Okay, cool. Hope you like that one. After I recorded it, I thought, oh, that sounds almost a little bit Pink Floydy in places. So for any of you that know Pink Floyd, you might have heard bits, or maybe it's just my ears. But anyway, hope you like that one. So let's move on. I'm going to have a look at our second chord, which is E major. So we're going to just come back to E minor initially. Make sure that's nice and clear. So 5th string second with the middle finger, and 4th string second with the 3rd finger. And then to make it E major, all we do is add this index finger, our 1st finger, to the 3rd string at the 1st fret. And so the only difference between the two chords is this one note, whether this 1st finger is on or off. So this is with the 1st finger down, so E major, so you'll hear the difference. Or E minor without that 1st finger down. So, and typically, as it says at the bottom of the book, major chords sound happy, minor chords sound sad. That's the kind of typical distinction that we get. So if you have a listen, this is E major. So it has a nice kind of jolly kind of feel to it. And then minor. Hopefully you can hear just kind of, it just feels a little bit more subdued. And that's sort of typical distinction that you make between them. In fact, if you ever choose to do grades, I think one of the questions, if you do, so there's different exam boards. One of the exam boards asked at grade 1, what's the difference between major and minor? They're not looking for anything technical. It's just major chords sound happy, minor chords sound sad. So it's a fairly well documented kind of idea. So in terms of practicing, what I would suggest is you practice E minor, E major, and make sure you're hearing the difference. That's all we want to get to at this stage. So if you find you're not hearing a difference, it's probably this 3rd finger is catching the 3rd string. Because then if you can sort of hear a difference, but not a lot, not as much as we want to hear anyway. So yeah, have a go at that. Watch out as well for the 1st finger to make sure it's not catching the 2nd string. We don't want to hear that kind of thing, so it's all right up on the fingertips, and then you should be good. So good luck with those two chords, and what we're going to do now is turn the page again and go on to exercise 12. Okay, we've got a new note here, which is C. So if I just put the screen back on, so looking at this page here, so this is our new note here, C. So you see when it's in that 2nd space from the top, that tells us it's C. If I just come back a page just to highlight the difference between A and C. So A is the 2nd space from the bottom and C is the 2nd space from the top. An important distinction to make, obviously. So the question then is, how do we play it? And C is the 2nd string at the 1st fret. So we're going to push down, as I said, 2nd string, 1st fret, and we're going to use the 1st finger. So you should get that sound. And then obviously if you lift that finger off and play B, you can hear the difference. When we push the finger down, we're getting the higher pitched note, which is our C, and then off is the B. So I'm going to play you number 12 then, the Cape. So I'll play it once through. Again, I've put repeats on nearly all of these. This is really just for kind of practice purposes, so you're kind of building a bit of stamina into your playing as well. Because particularly early days, it's quite easy to play a line of music or 2 lines of music, but as it gets a little bit longer, it becomes a little bit more challenging, obviously. Again, I'll ignore the repeats, but for your practice, that's really what you want to be doing, and the backing tracks will come in and help you out there. So number 12 then, we start on the C. Should mention as well, we've got the musical dynamic symbols underneath. So P stands for piano, and that's quietly, and then F is forte, which is loudly. So if you see under the 1st line where we've got that P, that's telling us we're going to be quiet, basically until we're told otherwise. So we play the whole of the 1st line quietly, and then the 2nd line it says forte, or the F, so we play all of that line quietly, loudly even, until we're told otherwise. So if we're doing the repeat, we'd go back and play the 1st line quiet again, and then the 2nd line louder. So yeah, hopefully that makes sense. That's the standard way of describing the sort of differences in volumes. And again, we're not worried about like you need to be at this particular level or anything like that. It's just for now we just want to hear a difference in volume. Yeah, good luck with it. So here we go. I'll play it a little bit quieter on the first line based on what's written there. Okay, so I'll count us in. So 3, 4, 2, 2. Go a bit louder. 2, 3, 4, and then obviously we'd repeat, do exactly the same thing again. So I'll just play it one more time. There's no quavers or anything. I'll do the teas and the coffees just to kind of, so you've got it there if you want it. So yeah, here we go. After 4, okay, so 3, 4, and T, 2, T, 2, and then T, 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 2, T, 2, T, 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 2, T, 2, T, 3, 4. Good stuff. Okay, so in fact, let's try that one together. So it's reasonably straightforward. As long as you can get that note on the C sounding nice and clear. Try and get right up on the fingertip as well, like you did when you were playing the A. We haven't got the note E coming into it, but in theory, if we did, we want that to be nice and clear. Okay, so here we go. After 4, you can add the dynamics in if you want. Usually when I'm teaching, I'm far more interested in people getting the notes right and the timing right. The dynamics is kind of the icing on the cake. So, do that when you're comfortable, but I wouldn't worry about it initially. So, here we go. After 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 2. 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. 2, 3, 4, and repeat. 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. 2, 3, and 4. Okay, cool. So I will now just pop the backing track on so you can have a listen along so you get a feel for where you should be. So here we go. So hopefully you like that one as well. Very different to the previous one. That's we probably describe as being a bit more of a classical kind of style. We will have to finish up there. So a few things I would suggest then to practice. So as a bit of a warm up, I was going to suggest number 7 this week, or exercise 7. So I just scan back in the book. That is the mill. So that's a little bit of practice on the notes G and A in particular. Then we've got our new exercises that we did today, which I think was 11 and 12. We've also got the E major chord and practicing so we can hear the difference between the E minor and the E major. And obviously if there are any previous exercises that you have found tricky, then just keep on with those for a little bit as well. I need to mention as well that next week is half term around here, so there's no lesson next week. So our next one is going to be in 2 weeks. So don't worry if you don't hear from me next week on the emails. I'll drop one out with the link for a fortnight's time, obviously a bit nearer the time. I think that's pretty much it. Obviously, if you've got any questions, please fire away. The other thing I was just going to mention is, as things stand, I've actually got a gig booked, and I'm just playing a short set at the Lyndhurst pub in Reading. So for anyone that's local, Saturday the 17th of February, I think it's going to be starting at sort of 8, half 8, something like that. So if you wanted to come down and say hello, you're very welcome to. I'll just be kind of backing a singer really. So it's just lots of chord stuff, which give you an insight into like where your chord playing could go in the future and that kind of thing potentially. So great stuff. Thanks for I've had a thumbs up from someone already, which is brilliant. So and a question that's just come through. So let's see, what would the 2 E chords look like on the page musical stave? That's a good question, and the answer is they look kind of daunting, to be honest, because you're going to have 6 notes stacked one on top of the other. I don't think I've got any way of putting that on the screen at the moment. I'll dig one out for next time so you can have a look. You might not like the answer, but often you'll find if you've got a strum and E chord and it's written on the stave, people might write E minor or E major above it. After a while you get used to it, but it's a busy looking set of notes. So any other questions, please do fire away. Otherwise, please give the video a thumbs up. Thanks to everybody who's donated so far, I really appreciate it. Any other donations would be greatly appreciated as well. I will leave it there. So I'll put it back on the Ask Questions page. If any others come through, I'll come back online. But otherwise, I'll see you in 2 weeks. So best luck with all the practice, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Okay, bye-bye.